What's up, you guys? It's your favorite nurse, Doms, and welcome back to Trauma Bond. Today's episode is about baby daddies, not fathers of your babies, but baby daddies. If you know, you know. And this one, we're not going to be sugarcoating. We're talking about the kind of relationships that don't just break your heart, they mess with your mind. The ones where the father of your child becomes a source of your mental exhaustion, verbal attacks, and sometimes even physical abuse. The kind that leaves you questioning your worth and your sanity. Literally, your sanity. Because I believe with my first baby daddy, I lost my mind. Because let's be real, some of these men don't just co parent, they control. They manipulate, they gaslight you, they tear you down mentally, verbally, and sometimes physically, all while you're just trying to survive and raise your baby. This episode isn't about baby daddy drama, it's about trauma. It's about breaking cycles, it's about recognizing abuse for what it is awful, and it's about healing so our kids don't grow up thinking that this is normal. If you ever felt stuck, silenced, or drained by somebody you have to stay connected to because of a child, this one's for you. For me, I have two children by two different fathers, and my first child's father, not much of a father actually, let's just call him a baby daddy. He was never really in the picture like ever. When my oldest son, he's 11 now, when he turned 1 month old, his dad went to jail and was there up until he was a year old. When he got out of jail, he, obviously came home to where we lived together with his mom. And it was like he didn't even recognize my son. He never talked to him. He never played with him. He just kind of pretended he wasn't there. And he would only talk to me, which was weird as hell. Honestly, thinking about it now, I'm like, why did he ever pretend to care so much when he never even talked to him when he was there? And I'm not the type of girl to keep the baby away. Like, you can never see him. I actually gave him a lot of potential visit time or potential anything, just gave him the opportunity to have a relationship with him. But he declined that for some odd reason. Even when he did get out of jail when my son was a year old, he was never there. I mean, this man, keep in mind, is a drug addict, gang member. Every time that he would come home, he'd sleep for 3 days, get back up, leave for 2 weeks. So eventually, the more sober that I got, because I did drugs, prior to having my son, not while I was pregnant, because I also, did drugs before I was pregnant or before I found out I was pregnant. And once I realized that I was pregnant, I, stopped doing drugs. And his dad, didn't. He continued on that same path. So for me, I kind of matured, once I stopped doing all the drugs, doing really anything, because now I'm a mom, right? I matured in a way that I felt like where I was living wasn't safe. It wasn't the right place or the right environment to raise my baby in. And I left. I remember I left in the middle of the night. He actually was home at the time. I packed all my bags. Surprisingly, he didn't wake up. And I knocked on my neighbor's door and I said, "Hey, I know we don't know each other super well, but I need you to give me a ride." And she gave me a ride like 30 minutes away. No, it was like an hour away, actually. I ended up staying with my sister. After that, I was still delusional. So I, did contact him or just let him contact me basically. And he was in jail. But when he got out, I decided that I was going to go back. So I did go back. But I don't even know how to explain how weird it was for me going back because he just never talked to him. Imagine having a baby, your baby, being around your baby, and not saying, like, "Oh, hi, Georgie," or "How are you?" or "You want to play blocks?" or whatever it was. It was just weird. It was like he didn't even realize he existed. He only talked to me. And of course, I didn't have all that time for him. I'm a mom now. Somebody's got to, take care of this baby, feed this baby, play with this baby. Like, why was he being so weird? I wish that I could have had a normal co-parent situation, but unfortunately, my baby daddy never stopped using. Even, after a couple years passed, I kind of did my own thing. He never reached out to me. His mom would reach out to me, but I had my own reasons on why I disliked her, which I feel like would be another episode of just me living in that house. But, I would go see them and I would let them see the baby, but she'd always say, like, why can't George see the baby? Well, where is he? Why hasn't he contacted me and asked? Am I the one who's supposed to reach out to him? I mean, what do you guys think? Like, are you supposed to reach out to somebody to see their own child? I don't think so. If I felt like he was a decent man, maybe, but he's a gang member, right? He does drugs. Like, what kind of environment would I be putting my son in who I care for, who I stopped doing bad things for? I changed my whole life for my baby and he didn't. Why would I go reach out to him? That's not normal. That's not right. When my son was maybe 6 years old, before my current relationship, he did contact me. In fact, it was a message saying something like this. Keep in mind there was no prior communication of him wanting to see my son. He said, "Hi, I just want you to know that I'll be hiring a lawyer and I'll be taking you to court for custody. Don't be mad, but it's just something I feel like I need to do." And when I finished reading this message, I just died of laughter because, like, go do it. Take me to court. Like, show your baby that you care, right? Like, go do it. I mean, the only person that's going to benefit here is my son and you. Like, I'm not going to lose anything. I'm his mom 24/7. Like, go do it. What's stopping you? And I told him that, I called him and I said, no one's stopping you from seeing him, but this is the first message I've gotten from you in years. Like, you're able to see him if you want to. You can come where I'm at. You can visit. We can go somewhere, or like I can supervise a visit with you guys. Like, if you want to go to the park, like, I'm not going to be in the way. We don't have to talk. I know some people have issues with their baby daddy because they want them still, right? They talk to them and then they're like, "Why don't you love me?" when they're trying to like have a visit. I'm not like that. I did not care at all. I just wanted my baby to be able to, be in a good environment. And I'm not going to let him just take him to the park. Like, he hasn't been around him at all. I didn't want to give him that much freedom yet, and I could have eventually, of course. I'm not going to just always be like, well, I have to be there because that's weird. But if you could have just done those regular supervised visits, that would have been normal. But he didn't even do that. So I replied to his message and I said, you're able to come see him. And he was like, oh, yeah? Well, can I? So I ended up going to meet him where he actually did talk to his son for the first time. He's like, oh, hi, how are you doing? I got you a gift. He got him a Nintendo Switch, which was really nice. And then, he took him in the store, we walked around, it was Walmart. We didn't do anything else but that. And then we left. And he didn't message me after that at all. A few days later, he's just like, I don't think this is gonna work, me and you. And I'm like, there is no me and you. Like, what do you mean, me and you? There's nothing there. There's nothing there. This, talking to you for my son was not for me. I'm like, I'm not sure if that's what you were wanting, but it's not happening. He's like, no, I don't want that. I'm like, so I don't understand what you're trying to say. We ended up just getting in a big argument for why I don't want to be with him and why he doesn't want to be with me when we equally agree that we don't want to be with each other. Why is this so weird? He never messaged me again. I sometimes think about that, like, what could I have done differently? But honestly, like, there's nothing. First of all, sometimes baby daddies suck. Let's just be real. For example, when I was pregnant with my oldest son, I remember I was on the run from foster care. So at any moment, I could have been taken away. They could have taken my baby away. I wasn't living with my mom, I was living with him. Keep in mind, I was 15. He was 19 or 20. I know, disgusting. So I'm in labor. His mom drives me to the hospital. My mom shows up screaming, I don't know her. She's just my friend. I'm like, Mom, it'd be more normal if you just said you're my mom. Like, nobody would question that. I remember, starting to push, and he came out, and then his dad ended up showing up. He looked at him. I think he might have cried a little, and then him and my mom left. From what I was told from my mother, because she was a drug addict, but she was never a liar, besides saying she was a great mother, that was a lie. She told me that they ended up doing drugs in the parking lot together. And then he left the hospital without even holding his baby. He left the hospital. And my mom came back. I think she came back and stayed with me for those 2 days for the free food, honestly. And after that, I had to go to my mom's house and stay there for about a week because the foster care system knew that I was about to be due. So they were gonna, look for me at all the addresses that they had for me. So I stayed with my mom for 7 days and he never showed up. He knew where she lived, like he's been there plenty of times, believe me. Throughout my pregnancy, he, constantly was over there doing drugs with my mom. He'd be gone for 2 weeks, and that's where he'd be, at my mom's house. How disgusting. So, and you know what? I'm a really nice person. I'm a really understanding person. Maybe not forgiving, but when I was in that relationship, I think I was the craziest I could ever be, or was ever. I mean, I would yell and fight, and he'd push me around physically, he'd throw me around physically, he'd threaten me, and I still stayed. I don't know if it was because I was a kid or if I felt like I loved him, but I stayed with my first baby daddy throughout all this. And keep in mind, so many things happened while I was living in this house that were just awful. And I don't know how I even raised my baby there for a year. But I mean, this man was dangerous, right? He didn't even pick me up from the hospital to take my baby home. He was nowhere to be found. I understand when a lot of people want to co-parent or say, I'm going to take him to court for child support, which, I could have done, but he never signed the birth certificate because he wasn't there. He was there for 2 seconds and left. So I wish that I could have had that normal co-parent kind of thing, but I feel like everybody goes through something with their baby daddy or previous baby daddy, not their current. I mean, I hope you guys are not going through this now. I feel like I normalized a lot of the behavior that was abusive just because of how I grew up. So whenever something would happen, especially with his mom there saying like, "Is there anything that you could do better so that he stays home?" I'm like, "Girl, he's on drugs. I don't think there's anything I could do to make him stay unless I was the cook for his drugs." And she would just say awful things to me. She'd be like, "Well, since he doesn't want to come, take care of you." But keep in mind, she took me in as a kid. She knew that I was on the run from foster care. She took on that responsibility. And she would say, "Because he's not here and not supporting you and the baby, I'm going to stop buying food." I'm like, "You're going to stop buying food for us because he's not here to support me?" Like the only one that affects is me, right? And the baby, because I'm making him baby food with like yams and potato, whatever I was doing. Like, how are you going to stop buying food for me? I mean, it's your money, it's your right, but like, you took this responsibility. There was so many issues with this baby daddy, let me tell you. It was the most toxic experience that I've ever had. And I don't really know what I was searching for during this relationship because, it went for a good 3 years with him, like physically in the house, and he was never there. This relationship, I feel like, really impacted my mental health like on a daily basis. Like I still feel like I struggle with how to talk to people, even my oldest son. Like it's hard to say. I don't ever, hold anything against him for the way his father was to me. Sometimes I snap, much easier than I would to anybody, and then I realize, well, what are you doing? Like this is your baby. But I feel like that definitely had impacted that. Like that whole relationship just impacted how I go through relationships. Luckily, I'm in a really good relationship. There's no, physical violence, there's no verbal violence. I definitely was so angry and mean after I left his father that I kind of told my partner who I'm with now, like, you will never talk to me like that. Or, we won't be together, or whatever I said. I believe that the example that I'm trying to, give for my son now is respect. But I also want him to know what safety feels like because obviously his father never gave him that love, that, safe space. He never really talked to him. And it's weird because, my son saw him when he was 6 and he doesn't really remember him at all. In fact, I think he remembers his brother more. One thing I often ask myself is, have I forgiven myself for what I tolerated during this relationship with my first baby daddy? I definitely think that there's so many things I should have done different. When stopped doing drugs, when I found out I was pregnant, I feel like I should have left right away. And if he ever were to be clean and sober or even contacted me, I definitely would have, stayed in touch for my child's sake. But I stayed. And I think that made the relationship and the way that I raised my baby a lot different because I was in such like survival mode there when I lived there that I feel like I didn't really cherish the memories, the early memories like I should have. Or I didn't have a lot of resources to do things. I was on the run from foster care. I couldn't take my baby to the park. I couldn't do a lot of things. I couldn't even go outside. There were times, in fact, the month that he went to jail, my baby was a month old. I'll tell you this story because this is a good one. When my baby was a month old, I remember I was there. My mom was there at his house. I don't even remember why my mom was there, but she was. And we're in the living room, and all of a sudden, his dad comes running in. We lived in this apartment that had like a bigger closet, like that Harry Potter closet. Well, we slept in there. And inside that closet was like a hole that went to the understairs of the apartment above, I guess. And I remember him barging in, running into that hole, hiding. And I'm like, what are you doing, dude? Like, who's chasing you? Why would you come here where your brand new baby is? Where your girlfriend, who's a minor, who's running away from the, system, why would you come here? And I'm telling him that I'm yelling at him. I'm trying to figure out what's going on. Like, what should I be prepared for? Like, is there another gang member who's trying to kill you? Like, what's going on? Like, let me know so I could leave or not leave or whatever. All of a sudden, I hear a bunch of helicopters or one, two, I don't know. Sounded like a lot. And banging on all the doors. And I'm looking through the window. Cops have surrounded this whole apartment. I mean, they got shotguns, they got all types of people, they got dogs. The cops looking at me, I'm looking at him. I'm like I'm not letting you in. And he's like, we don't want any problems with you. We just want him. And I'm looking at my mom like, what do we do? My mom pretends like to do some mental activity. She's like, you're scaring me to the cops, like just for them to get away. And I'm like, what the hell? She's tripping. Anyways, so, after maybe 25 minutes of them trying to, ask us to open the door, like we know he's in there, I remember just looking at my baby and saying, I have to do this for you. Like, I don't know what's going to happen, but I bargained with them, I'm like, look, I'll let you in, but I want you to know that I have a 1 month old in my arms and I don't want any part of this. And I'll open the door. And they said, we're not going to hurt you. We're not going to do anything to your baby. Just let us in. I said, okay, I'm opening the door. Me and my mom and my baby, we walked out, went across the street. They didn't even talk to us. They went straight in and got him and took him to jail. Apparently, I believe he was stealing a bunch of cars or something. I have no idea. He was doing some weird fraud stuff. But anyways, that time should have been a warning or a red flag of like, get the hell out of this house. What are you thinking? But I didn't. He went to jail and I stayed till he got out. And I feel like those are some things that I don't forgive myself for. I should have left sooner. And my baby and me probably would have just grew up different, right? We're living in a closet, first of all. Like, what kind of life is that? I'm on the run from foster care. I can't go outside. I don't have any money for myself. His mom's crazy. Like, why did I stay in that environment so long? And why do I still not forgive myself for that? There are some times that people ask me, what would you do if your first baby daddy came back and reached out to you and said, hey, I'd really like to see my son. Do you think I could do that? I honestly don't know how to answer that. I feel like the good person in me would want to not give a second chance because there's been like a million chances, but, give him the benefit of the doubt and say, sure, let's do this legally though through the courts so that everything is documented. There could be somebody there supervising these visits, making sure everybody's safe, right? That's the kind person in me. But the mother in me, the protector in me says, hell fucking no. Do not let that man ever get in his life ever again. What has he ever done? He's never changed his diaper, not one time. And I mean, never. Not one time has he ever changed his diaper, held him. It was like he was a stranger to him. Why would I allow him that now? That would be for his peace of mind. I feel like he would only want to reach out to make himself feel better. Like, oh, I'm a father. Like, I should really do something, like, step up, see him. But I think he'd be doing that for himself, not for my son. He's never done anything for my son. He's never fed him. He's never, like, anything. So I feel like definitely the protector in me would really what would happen. I don't think I'd let him in his life. The partner I have now, we've been together for 5 years, and he's a father to him. He's never known anybody else but him. I have another child now, his brother. They both see him as, their father. Well, one of them is, but I mean, they both are. They both are now, you know? And I don't think I would ever want to ruin that or confuse my son. I definitely, depending on the age that my son is, if that ever were to happen, I would ask him, like, hey, this is going on. Are you open to that? But I would for sure tell him everything that has happened when he was a child. I think that he would deserve to know and choose for himself if he would want to talk to him. And if he still did, I'd respect that and I'd let him. But I don't think that I would leave anything out. I'd make sure he knows exactly who he was. And people do change, believe me. But I've waited a long time for certain people to change that haven't. And I don't think it'd be fair to come in his life the last minute just because he's a better person when he never even held him, you know? Like, there's no one good memory where I could have told my son growing up, like, your father was never there, but I do remember this moment that he had with you. I don't have any of those. Like, the only one thing he's ever done for him is he took him once to go get his picture taken, but he had been gone for 3 weeks. And I think me and my baby were napping. I wake up and he's gone. So I'm freaking out like somebody stole my baby. But I'm on the run. I can't just call the cops. And then his mom comes home a couple, maybe 2 hours later, and she's like, oh, he took him. He stole him, basically. Like, I know we live together, but I don't think you're just supposed to take a baby, take him out. He was high on drugs. Like, it was super unsafe. I told him never, ever do that again. And he was pretty obedient when it came to, like, leave my baby alone. And I think it's just because he didn't care about him, which is really sad. Some baby daddies are not good. Some are very toxic, and it was very verbally bad. I mean, he would always tell me, "You're never going to be nothing. You're never going to be nobody." And I'm just a kid, I don't even have parents. And hearing that from somebody I thought I loved, that I cared about, was strange. I didn't know even how to express that feeling. I felt super lower than I even felt just being on my own. Somebody telling you you'll never be anything, like, what are you going to do without me? Well, what do I do with you? Really? And look at me now. I'm a nurse. I have my own home. I don't own it, but it's a big home and I rent it. But I make enough to be able to do these things. I go on vacations every year. I have a beautiful support system that I have. I became something, and I'm still going to be going to school, furthering my career. That's really crazy for somebody who would never amount to nothing. Some people also ask, what boundaries have I set? I'm going to say that what boundaries have I set with my children, because I do have them with my new partner. And it's really hard for me to allow my new partner to discipline my oldest son just because he wasn't there when he was little. It feels too personal for me. But I think those are the boundaries. And I don't mean to, but like when he does something not bad, but like if, he forgets to get his clothes, off the bathroom floor or something, and he goes to tell him, I'm always like, hey, just leave him alone. Let me do it, which I shouldn't, because he's been in his life for 5 years now, half his life. And I do try to work on those things because he is his father. And he does play that role. He provides what he can for us. We live together. We have another baby together. But it is still hard for me. Also, sometimes when he tries to give him advice on whatever, maybe his little girlfriend or whatever the case is, I'm like, hey, maybe let someone else do that because you don't like speak proper to him, or, you don't really know what to say. I know I shouldn't do those things. That's what boundaries, or I guess walls, I've put up for that relationship that I'm trying to work on. And I do recognize it. I do know that I do that, and it's not very healthy. But remember, when I had my baby, my first one, I was in survival mode every single day. I mean, every day I woke up, the cops could come knock on my door and take me away. And they have. They have knocked on my first baby daddy's door, and I opened the door with my baby, and they're like, we're gonna take you. So I'm like, let me put my dog away, and I've ran out the back. There's been plenty of times that I just was never at peace. So I cared about this baby so much. I mean, he was like the first thing I've ever loved in my life. So setting those boundaries for people who do things to him or talk to him in a certain way that's not me, I tend to not allow it. For my sister, I feel like I've let her do a lot with my son because she was there when he was a year old and up. She helped me raise him for a long time. She, helped me take away his pacifier, like plenty of things, so I allow her to do a lot of those things, and I'm working on it with my partner. But those are definitely the boundaries that I've set, or the walls that I've put up. So definitely, I understand if you're going through things with a baby daddy, just remember that nothing's permanent, nothing's forever. I felt like when I was in this relationship that I was never going to be happy, that I was always going to be in survival mode, always have these problems, worried about getting hit physically, worried about verbal abuse, like just worried about everything, you know? But if this episode hit home for you, I need you to know that you're not crazy. You're definitely not weak, and you're not alone, right? I've been there. I get you. Baby daddy sucks sometimes. And there's really good ones, don't get me wrong, but those are fathers. We're talking about baby daddies. Trauma bonds are real. Emotional abuse is real. Mental exhaustion from co-parenting with someone toxic is real. And just because you share a child with someone does not mean you owe them access to your peace or your children. Because honestly, if someone's not in the right space to take care of a child, they shouldn't. They shouldn't. And you have every right as a mother or a protector to protect your children. Healing doesn't always mean cutting someone off completely, except in my case, I did that. Sometimes it means setting boundaries that are so strong they can't shake you anymore. It means choosing stability for your children. It means choosing yourself. I always cared about my oldest child so much that I never allowed anyone to break that peace that I've built for him. And I think that's why I set up a lot of walls for him. He was my first love. He was so beautiful. You know, he was the best baby. And I went through all of these things with him. He went through them with me. We basically grew up in a sense together, right? I was just a kid. And I don't want anybody to ever take his peace away. I hope that you guys all know, if you listen to this and you're related, I'm here. I hear you. I see you. And you're definitely not alone. This is Trauma Bond, and we're healing out loud. I will see you next week on Sunday at 9 p.m. for my next episode, which I'm not too sure what it's going to be about. In fact, maybe I should talk about my first baby daddy's house. I think that's what I'll do. This has been Trauma Bond. I'll see you guys next week. Bye.